The Pluto person holds all the power in synastry. In synastry, when one person's Pluto makes aspects to another person's personal planets, I'm talking Sun, Moon, Mars, Venus, the planet person becomes extremely obsessed with the Pluto person. Sometimes Pluto likes them back. Other times, the Pluto person does not like them back and can actually be repulsed by them. But even if the Pluto person does like the planet person back, they usually are not nearly as obsessed and all about them as the planet person. So this creates a power imbalance majorly, and the Pluto person has to be extremely evolved in order to not abuse their power over the planet person. Because it's extremely easy for the Pluto person to control, to manipulate, and to feed off of the obsession that the planet person is giving to the Pluto person. Especially with a conjunction like Venus or Mars conjunct someone's Pluto, or Moon conjunct Pluto. With the square is especially painful because usually this brings out the shadow side of each planet involved. So the Pluto person will control, manipulate, and kind of play around with the feelings of the planet person, and it always ends in heartbreak. The Pluto person holds all the power in
squares. Even though there's a lot of tension here and conflict, it leads to a lot of growth. Mars square Pluto in synastry can create a very strong, sexual attraction to each other. You're very drawn to each other. It's kind of like an attraction you can't explain. The thing with Mars and Pluto is they're both very powerful planets. They both want to be in charge. You both want to be in charge. You both want to be in control in certain ways in the relationship. This can bring up your own issues with power and control for both of you, for each of you. These disagreements around power and control come up. You can do one of two things. Each of you can do one of two things, and it will take both of you choosing to work on yourselves and realize that the things that came up in the relationship between the two of you, it's not your partner. It's actually something that you have to work on internally. And when you do that, you guys can really grow and transform together. It can be very healing. The other way it can go is that these conflicts and power struggles can just lead to more of this negative energy, jealousy. This could be an aspect for jealousy and just possessiveness. But that's one way it could go. The other way, like I said, is if when these things come up, because in every relationship there's going to be some square, there's going to be some sort of difficult aspects going on. When these things come up, you have to address them yourselves and kind of together, but make sure you're doing the work individually, and then you can grow and transform together. So that's the power in this Mars square Pluto. And if you want a deeper look at your relationship,
Pluto, we have two very malefic planets. Pluto is concerned with control, order, but also destruction of what is not working in their way, okay? If it's not operating exactly how they want it, they will take measures into their own hands and do what needs to be done to kind of make that happen. Mars, this is a planet of action, assertion. This is a planet that operates in the way it sees fit for its own interest. Okay, you have to remember Mars is the ruling planet of Aries, okay, sign of self. First of all, a square as an aspect, it brings a lot of internal tension. And when it's in synastry, there is a clash between the way that these people naturally operate. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say someone has Mars in Virgo, which is very meticulous. It likes to think things through. It's not very risk taker energy. It's more planning things out accordingly. So they're definitely going to work. Pluto, let's say it's in Sagittarius, is all about expanding its beliefs with an ultimate goal of transformation, often through experience or adventure. It's going to go with what it feels is going to bring it its end result. If Mars tries to knock or control anything, or even have a say in anything about how Pluto operates, Pluto in Sagittarius does not like to be questioned, okay? It values freedom and its own authority, its own autonomy. That's going to trigger Pluto, and that's where Pluto is going to try and twist Mars's natural way of acting, of operating. This is where it plays out. Mars is not going to like that. Mars is going to feel dominated. Mars is going to feel like it's being controlled. It's a back and forth. It's like a ping pong game of who's in control. That is the simplest explanation.
Pluto square Mars. Let's talk about Pluto in harsh aspect to Mars in general. I'm going to do a deep dive. There's not going to be a part. Pluto square Mars and Pluto in harsh aspect to Mars in general can bring feelings of raw sexual chemistry of the couple. It's drive, it's passion, it's a lot of energy generated by the couple. But we also know that at the same time, Pluto square Mars can mean violence, unfortunately. It can sometimes bring feelings of obsession, intensity, power dynamics issues, power conflicts, and things associated with that. So how do we really know whether it's going to manifest in that way in our synastry chart, and how do we know whether Pluto themes are going to be central to our love story and to our natal story in general? First, we have to find out what Pluto and Mars are doing in our birth chart and in our partner's birth chart. So is your Mars angular? Is your Mars ruling any of the angles? Is your Mars conjunct any of the angle rulers? Is your Mars ruling your North Node? Is your Mars ruling your part of fortune? Is Pluto angular in your birth chart? That's going to tell us a lot. Do you already have a Pluto square in your chart? Is Pluto already squaring your Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars? Or is it not doing anything? Is it tucked away in 12th or 6th house or in 9th house? Is it not really aspecting any planets? Do the same thing for your partner's birth chart. So let's say Mars rules your 4th house cusp, and let's say your Mars is square Pluto. You might probably already be fighting issues related to authority, repressed anger, questions of dominance, especially when it comes to your childhood home growing up. Maybe these were issues that were central to your family story, to your father's story. And suddenly you meet a person whose Pluto falls directly on that Mars-Pluto square natally. So obviously the person is going to activate this Pluto square that you already have in your birth chart and going to reinforce these themes that you already struggle as is on your own. And that's also why a lot of the times if you are born with a natal Pluto square Venus, Pluto square Mars, Sun, I don't know, but if you do have this Pluto square in your birth chart, a lot of the times these themes are going to be reinforced by your peers, so people of your age, just because they're going to be of the same age group as you. Pluto moves very slowly through the zodiac sign, so whenever you are dating someone of your age and you already have this Pluto square, this other person of your same age is going to reactivate these themes. So maybe sometimes if you don't want to deal with these topics, you probably want to look into dating someone outside of your age bracket. Maybe your partner was born with an angular Pluto. Maybe it was in his 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th house. So he natally already has the story of struggling with the issues around authority, conflict, power battles within home or in partnerships, or in the way he presents himself to the world. And then suddenly you appear in his life and your Mars strikes his Pluto from a harsh aspect. So these themes that he already struggles with around, control, power dynamics is again reactivated by your presence in his life. And from there on, these issues can get out of hand if there's no healthy outlet to release all this pent up energy that you guys generate between each other. One of my favorite synastry books is Karmic Connections by Judy Hall, and she actually has a separate passage on Pluto Mars. Now, what she says about this is the challenge here is for both partners to be assertive in their own right, channeling the strong Pluto Mars energy into joint projects, rather than into the love between them, which could well become sadomasochistic if Pluto was left to run amok. So with this combination, if all you have is each other, if all you focus on is your relationship, if you guys don't have any side hobbies or interests or projects that you work on together, if you are consumed by this relationship and the only outlet that you have for all of this energy is the relationship itself, it can get pretty bad. Next thing is the question of orb. So how tight is this aspect? How closely do these planets aspect each other in your synastry chart? Because chances are, if it's 3 degrees or less, these energies are going to be felt quite acutely by both of you, and it's going to be one of the central themes to your relationship. However, if it's above 5 degrees, if it's even more than that, it might be there in the background, but it might not be central to your love story. So in case of Diddy and Cassie, it's over 5 degrees as far as I recall, and it's out of sign square. So Diddy's Mars is in the last degree of Capricorn,
History. Pluto and Mars aspects can sometimes manifest into toxic and abusive relationships, and here's why. Pluto's about transformation and control, and Mars is about taking action and aggression and desires. So when these two planets come together in hard aspects, opposition or squares, it can manifest in struggles for dominance, where one or both people want to have control over the other person. And if Saturn is also connected to this aspect between the synastry charts, especially if the sign of Scorpio and the 8th house are also involved, Saturn in this mix emphasizes themes of control and suppression and can contribute to an environment where power is misused, potentially leading to emotionally or physically toxic behaviors within the relationship. And this creates an intense and volatile dynamic between the couple. Remember, it's important to look at the charts as a whole and the totality of the karmic dynamic between the couple, which includes taking into account all of the other aspects that the couple has together. If you want to learn more about astrology, join my...
When Mars squares Pluto in synastry, this is like a heavyweight boxing match between these two. Yes, the relationship can be totally passionate, sexual, intense, but on the flip side, it can be full of power struggles, conflict, and manipulation. Especially if Scorpio or the fixed signs are involved in the square, these two can be superly strong-willed and their personalities totally clash and butt heads. The Mars person can feel like the Pluto person is totally controlling and manipulative, and the Pluto person can feel like the Mars person is super aggressive or confrontational, which can cause constant arguing and total relationship chaos. This relationship can be like a spicy taco, explosive and intense, yet you just gotta have it. With this aspect in synastry charts, you really need other blending aspects like Venus trine or sextile Venus, just sort of blend this energy out, because even though the relationship can be intense, this couple has the ability to achieve amazing things together. When Mars...
If you're involved with a partner that is really manipulative in the relationship, here's what you want to look for in the synastry process. You want to look to see, does their Pluto aspect your Mars, and does their Saturn also aspect your Mars? Because Mars is a planet of desire and how you stand up for yourself. And so what happens is that when you have the planet Pluto, power and control on top of your Mars, and also Saturn, the planet of limitation and restriction, also on top of your Mars, this symbolizes the partner trying to have power and control over you, Pluto and Saturn to your Mars. And specifically when Scorpio is involved, here's where manipulation comes into play. If you want to learn more about astrology, join my daily...
So today I want to talk about some toxic relationship aspects in the synastry or the composite chart. Ones to be aware of if you have them. It can be quite a difficult relationship. So the first one is a square between Mars, so one person's Mars and the other person's Pluto, or Mars square Pluto in the composite chart, which is a separate chart of the relationship itself. Now, this aspect can really show that where the people don't back down from an argument or a fight, and they really just want to fight each other to the bitter end on whatever it is that they're fighting about. And it can lead to violence because the egos are so highly involved. They're very attracted to each other. They're really turned on by each other. There's a lot of sexual passion. There's a lot of desire to just totally merge with the other in an overly aggressive way. So they can be attractive aspects to have, but usually the egos are so highly involved that when there's an argument or when there's some difficulty, they both go on the offensive and literally attack each other, and it can lead to violence if the natal charts show that type of behavior. It can be dangerous. So when I see Mars square Pluto in the composite chart or in the synastry chart, and there's other difficult aspects, just something to be very aware of. It can be a toxic relationship. The next aspect that could be toxic is Mars squaring Mars in synastry. Now this one, it can still be good, so you have to look at the whole chart and you have to look at the natal charts to see how they operate in their own Mars. But the thing with this one is they have very different approaches on their aggressive energy, their sexual energy, and they tend to fight each other constantly with this one, which depending on the people, if they're, more Piscean or more lower energy people, this aspect can really be attractive and light the fire under their ass, and they actually accomplish a lot together and have amazing sex. It can be really good for sex too. But it's also something to look out for because they could just be fighting all the time. There could just be so much tension. It could just become unbearable, and it could lead to violence or toxicity. The next one would be Mercury in one partner's chart, square or opposite to the other partner's Pluto. Now, with this one, the Pluto person can be quite belittling to the Mercury person, and their communication could be really limited by this, depending on the Pluto person's, level of kindness and involvement. But it's just one to look out for, where the Mercury person might feel like they can't speak, and if they do speak, they're getting attacked or they're getting, really hurt by the Pluto person. And the Pluto person may also want to control the Mercury person's mind, and it could end up being quite a manipulative, toxic bond. But you have to look at the whole chart, of course, as I keep saying, but that's just one to look out for, because even if other good things are going on, there still can be an underlying tension with this one. Lastly, when there is a lot of Neptune aspects in the synastry, positive or negative aspects, all aspects really, or difficult Neptune aspects in the composite chart, there can be a likelihood that someone, sometimes both people, sometimes just one person, is not seeing the other person clearly, is not seeing the relationship clearly, is being deceived, okay? So Neptune is always something to look out for, especially harsh aspects, because often we just don't really know what's going on with the relationship. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes actually it lends a really high level of romanticism, which keeps things like a fantasy. And that can be really good for certain people, as long as, the people aren't being deceived or hurt. So Neptune aspects are always something to look out for. So today I want to talk about
Vanessa.